Hello and welcome to the studio again for another live painting session. All set up, ready to go, folks. We're going to be doing an atmospheric sort of watercolour today. Just reading some of the chat, it's nice to see people joining us from all over the world. So hello to everybody, whatever time of day it is in your part of the world. So welcome to my studio. I'll talk about this scene. It's going to be a wintry themed one. I love painting snow, and any excuse. Now we're in November, good excuses to paint some winter watercolours. Love snow scenes, but very atmospheric. We're talking atmosphere today, folks. I'll show you the sketch and I'll talk about the materials for this one as well. So that was a quick glance at the sketch there, just to show you what I'm going for. So we're kind of working on a bit of a wintry style picture, and it's going to be like a cottage that's kind of nestling within a country scene, but a snow scene as well. So it'll be a nice one. So a nice kind of country lane. Let's take another look at the sketch. So this would be ideal for Christmas cards, to be fair. So if you're into the Christmas card thing, then this would be a great scene to do. So it is very much a demonstration, which means I'm painting this thing straight in, bang, pretty quickly. It'll probably be over an hour, something like that, the live demo. So stick with us and enjoy. If you're new to watercolours and you think that this is a bit speedy, then you want to be thinking about these virtual workshops. These have been happening over the past 33 weeks, the online workshops, and all of a sudden when COVID hit, of course, everything went into lockdown, and my workshops that I've been teaching for over 20 years around the UK all of a sudden just stopped. Okay, so doing these live classes that we can see here have massively made up for that, you know, and these are thoroughly enjoyable, and there's hundreds of people every week taking part in these, and I'm sure there's some people, I can see some people on the live chat, so hello to a few people. Hello to Darcy, hello to Samantha, hello to Sandra, hello to June, hello to March, hello to Paula. Thanks for tuning in, and I know that you've been taking part in these virtual workshops. We do have a handful of spaces left for this one, the Northern Lights. Now what's interesting about these virtual workshops that you can see here, these only need 3 brushes and 3 colours. In fact, I'll quickly mention which materials for the live workshops. It's basically these 3 brushes here. So you've got a big brush, this one's a 20, we've got a 10, we've got a 6, just round watercolour brushes, standard watercolour brushes. Now all these colours aren't needed for the workshops. All you need is a red, like a alizarin crimson or something, a blue, like ultramarine, and a bright yellow like cadmium yellow. Those 3 colours, those 3 brushes will do the job. But for today's demo, I'm going to use the entire palette. Let's have another look at the palette because it's all ready to go. So I'm going to use whichever colours I decide, because I'm not quite sure exactly how this picture will end up. That's all part of the fun of doing live stuff. So what we've got here is my natural range of paints. Now there's an example of a tube there. So these are called Matthew Palmer Collection Natural Colours, and this particular one here is dark skin tone. There's also a light skin tone, so they're quite nice colours. But this is a set of 14 colours designed to replicate nature. The likes of natural grey for doing the shadows, natural yellow for sandstone, natural brown for tree branches, fence posts, that kind of thing. We've also got natural blue and natural violet, 2 very cold colours, but natural violet especially is beautiful for winter scenes, and bluebells as well actually. Natural oranges for replicating autumn, turquoise for the seascape. The greens, the light and dark green, are beautiful. You've got to remember that these colours were designed purely and simply for replicating nature, okay? And they are spot on, and they're mixed in the way that I'd mix them in the factory, you know, if you like. if you wanted to get a green, you wouldn't go out and buy a green off the shelf because they don't look right. But having the likes of natural green, it will replicate foliage. Skin tone, so we've got the red, got the yellow. So there's 14 colours, and we'll talk about them more as we go through the actual demo. Like I said, my kind of standard brushes is these three here, folks. You've got these standard three brushes here. We've got a 6, 5 or 6, 10 or 12, 16 or 20. Those brushes are pretty standard brushes and I use them a lot. But as most of you know, I've got my own range of specialist brushes, and of course I'm going to be using some of those throughout the demonstration. We've got the likes of the tree and texture brushes. We've got the beautiful new Fantastics. We've got the blending blades. We've got the beautiful branching detail brush here, and of course we've also got the lift out brush as well. So that's kind of my range of own personalised brushes that I've manufactured, and they've been around for years. I mean, these aren't new things, these have been around for a long time, so they're well established. I know that some of you guys watching this, I can see some of the names popping up. I've been enjoying them over the years. But I'm all sketched in. One quick look at the sketch and then we'll take a look at the paper. Okay, so that's the sketch then. Paper size, it's around about 1/4 imperial. If this is a bit bigger, but that would be fine. 1/4 imperial would be fine. I've sketched it in. This glossy blue stuff that you can see here is actually masking fluid. If I zoom in close to this, you can see the masking fluid has been applied on. Now, masking fluid is a liquid latex. It comes in various forms. You can buy it in the form of these little pens. This is a Schmincke's own masking fluid. You can buy bottles of masking fluid. It's basically liquid latex. And if anybody bought any of that fake Halloween skin, that is pretty much the same stuff, if I'm being completely honest. It's liquid latex, but the difference here is it's coloured, so you can see exactly where it's been applied, and that is quite an important thing to mention, okay? It is, and it allows us just to protect areas of the painting that we want to keep white. So in this particular case, it's the top of the building, a little bit on the actual cottage as well, and that'll keep it all nice and crisp and white against the sky. So I'm going to zoom back to the full picture, and I want to paint in my actual sky. Now what I'm also going to do here as well, I want to pop in some masking tape, which I'm going to remove the stickiness from. Is the sound okay, by the way? Someone mentioned you not got sound. It sounds okay here as far as I'm aware. Okay, now I'm going to pop this along the top ridge of this area. So again, just remember, this is very much a demo. This is me painting at my kind of speed. So if you want something steady to work along to, then think about getting one of those workshops. Details is in the description. Sounds fine, I can see it's broadcasting fine. I've spent about 3 hours getting all the sounds synced up and everything, so we should be okay. There's quite a lot involved in these live streaming things, you know. You wouldn't believe how many lights and cameras are around here. It's quite confusing, but it's live, it's good fun, and let's get stuck into this, okay? So we've got the tape on, focusing at the top of the picture, which means I can zoom in a little bit closer because I'm only interested in the top section for the minute. Now what I want to do is I want to wet. Yeah, that's right. What Darcy's saying is there's no audio on the sketch. Which is fine. You don't need me to talk about the sketch, do you? You can see it. There. But here we've got the picture. Now I've got the big brush and I'm going to literally wet the paper. Now remember, I'm literally just painting this myself here. And I thought I'd invite you guys to join in. So wetting the paper, this is cotton paper, this is a not surface paper. I am broadcasting in full high definition. Jean's saying she's got blurry on a smart TV. I imagine that's because maybe your internet's not great, but we are leaving this building at full high definition, Gene. So if there's a problem with yours, then there's something. You need to change the settings. You can up YouTube automatically reduces the quality that you see if your internet is nice one. Clean your TV. If your internet struggles with it, but it's leaving here at full HD. Okay, I can't control what happens at your end, unfortunately. Try resetting your router. That's always a good thing to do. So yeah, so I'm wetting the paper, and I'm just going to paint in all of the sky. You know, a nice big sky here. But I want atmosphere. I want to go dark. I'm not afraid of the dark. Halloween's just passed. Here's the palette. Let's get some colours chucked on this thing. Now my first colour is going to be light skin tone. Love this colour. Straight in onto the paper. That's going to go in a bit of an angle here. Right down to the masking fluid. I shall be rotating the board here as well. It's all part of the fun. There we go. So that's got that beautiful skin tone, which is fine. It's giving me a nice base. Warm evening skies always look effective. Clean the brush out. Let's go for something much stronger, much more powerful. Let's go for that violet that we spoke about. Natural violet is a beautiful colour, and I'm a big fan of using natural violet. So it's going to come in, working down from the top. Again, rotating the board. Now, I'm working on a slight tilt. I'm not working on my easel today. I'm working in my actual painting studio today because I've been doing quite a lot of work up here for the past few days for new books and various things. And so I'm all set up here. This is my normal way of working, actually working on a desk, if you like. Just want to make sure nothing goes over the top of that building. Wash that off if we need to. Because obviously the masking fluid is going to keep that clean. And the violet goes in, and it's a lovely colour. It really accompanies the skin tone. Lovely, beautiful. So that's given me a nice base. What we need to do now is we need to go a little bit darker. So I'm cleaning the brush again, and this time we're going to go for grey. I mean, that's a serious bit of colour. This is where the atmosphere is going to come in, alright? Don't be afraid of this, be terrified. Let's bring this down from this top, twist the brush. Now for those people that know about my blending blades, you could use those for this particular stage, but we're going to go in here. There's a power station or a steam train flying by at the background. Now what I want to do here is I'm going to clean that brush out, soften that down, almost as though it's got some direction to it, you know, maybe a bit of falling rain. You can see I can pinch the bristle and I can drag it down. Nice, very wintry. Let's go a bit thicker with the grey, exactly the same colour, just a bit stronger. Like I say, I'm not being worried about using strong colours here today. It's all part of what I want to go for. Atmosphere is the key. That is almost pure paint I'm bringing into that there. And I can overlap that little bit of first done, you see. Very dramatic sky. Let's bring some smaller ones coming down here as well. And what I'll do with those is I'll soften those in. So I'll clean that brush really well. Now, just going to pinch it in the tissue there, to be fair. And again, make the brush go a little bit flat, because then I can spend a few minutes just dragging down some more of these angles. And because it's more of an evening picture on these lower down ones, you can actually create an illusion of light. You know, if you use the edge of the brush, you could use that just to... There we go. So I'm basically just removing some colour here. There we go. Beautiful. it's amazing if you work. You see that light that's coming through? I'm leaving these because it's, you know, in your mind these could be rays, or they could be, you know, there could be rain or snow, I suppose, probably more so. But it's such a nice way of working, actually, removing paint. And it all depends if it's dry or not, you know. Something to practice. You know, all these techniques you learn in the workshops, and I'll mention it again, folks, but these workshops are really good. Please have a think about booking them in, because total escapism. When you're painting, you know, your mind's not on activities that's happening out the door. Your mind is on what's happening on the bit of paper here. And I'm sure you know that yourself. So that's plenty of light. It's quite addictive, that. Really adds a lovely atmosphere. Beautiful. Now down here, I want to bring in some trees. Bringing in some trees at this point, okay? So I'm just going to get myself close in. And yeah, happy with the sky. Yeah, let's kind of get a bit closer in now, folks. We can zoom in closer to that area. So working across here, we're going to put some trees in now. For this, yes, it's the Northern Lights. That's the workshop that we're doing. So if you do fancy getting yourself booked into this workshop, the Northern Lights, all step by step and no sketching, check out more information on the website, which of course is on this side, Watercolour TV. All right. Okay, so that's damp, it's drying. It's nice to see that natural grey starts to separate. You can see that for yourself. It does separate naturally, because remember, these are mixed colours as though you've mixed them in your palette. Blue, red and yellow. If you're new to my YouTube channel, as Lynn's just said, hello to Lynn, make sure you hit the like, that'd be great. And also, if you could subscribe, I'd be very grateful. Click the subscribe button for me, folks, and click the notification bell, because over the next few weeks you're going to be seeing quite a lot of live demos coming up on YouTube. And if you want to see those for yourself, what you need to do is you need to hit the subscribe and the notification bell. That is important, because then you'll be alerted of when the live stuff is coming up. That's quite important, okay? Check that out for me, folks. That'd be very, very nice. Right, let's have a look at palette. Here it is. Now, we're talking about trees at this point. So here, one of the original brushes, one of the first ones that I designed was this tree and texture brush. This is the large tree and texture brush. Now, there's 4 different brushes altogether. This is the large one. Nice and clean. And what I'm going to do is not have too much water, and basically use dark skin, mix it in the brush, and then we've got grey there for later, and physically stipple the brush. Can you see how it starts to go a little bit on the spiky side? Okay, that's what these brushes are designed for. You can probably see it better here if I hold it there. Can you see that nice kind of spiky brush? Very popular. Originally these things came out, crikey, late 90s. Late 90s, I want to say. Got some tissue in case I start crying, and what we'll do is we'll get close into this area here so we can see what we're doing, and let's just go for it. You can't go wrong with this, folks. So with every stipple of the brush, it will give us the, and I will be rotating the board at this point as well, it will give us the sort of last of the autumn leaf, as it were. Bring that down. Now at the minute that's quite a rich colour. We shall be going darker in a couple of moments time. So every time I'm tapping it, you can hear the little sort of tap that appears. So it's like having 100 brushes in one, because it allows you to get that nice consistency. Now if I bring in some of the grey, as we work down, to get that nice base. So yeah, you know, for me, any excuse to paint winter. I love snow scenes, and it is one of my favourite subjects. And if you look back on the YouTube channel, you'll see there's quite a lot of videos of me actually painting winter. I think there's about 25-30 videos on my YouTube channel at the minute. Making the grey a bit thicker here, So remember, this is not Payne's grey. Payne's grey is a little bit too dark. Okay. Now I want to add some separation to these trees. So I'm sort of working up one side. Yeah, but where's your light coming from? Doesn't really matter, to be fair. It's kind of gone anti the sun on this one. There we go. So we've popped in some shadows. Can you see it kind of starts to create separation? The studio lights are reflecting. Clean the brush really well. Squeeze it through that piece of tissue, which I'm doing off camera. And using a damp brush, is it me? Check your dampness. Is it me or is it moist? Because I always think on a winter scene, if you just kind of skim over with a moist brush, look how it feathers it. Beautiful, beautiful. Nice. Look at that. I've got goosebumps. Hey, look, see them? Now, it just softens them. It looks beautiful. Now, what I want to do here as well, folks, before we move on, is I want to grab, hanging around at the back of me over here, there's all sorts of stuff at the back of me. There's all random years worth of brushes and paints. But hanging around here, we have the trusty palette knife. There it is, the trusty palette knife. You could use a plastic card for this. Wouldn't really matter if it wasn't a palette knife. And literally we can scrape off the branches. Now I'm sure you've seen me do this before, but every time I do it, you know, all these years of scraping branches, I've been scraping my branches for all these years. And I've never gone through to the other side, but look how effective. Let's get close in again, folks. Look how effective that actually is over here as well. Of course, it only works if your paper's damp. Again, these are all the sort of techniques that you're going to learn in virtual workshops. I know I keep plugging them, folks, but you will have a good time. And the really good thing about them is if you can't catch it live, because it's 10 AM Sunday, the 8th of November, if you're watching this live, 2020 that is, of course. It's yours to keep, so you can watch it back at any time. You don't have to watch it live. In fact, there's quite a lot of people who don't watch the workshops live. It's just addictive doing that. I just think it's great. And the more it dries, the more it kind of works. I mean, this palette knife, it's, you can see it's battered, look, it's seen better days, but it just works. It just works a treat, and it really is a lovely tool for removing a bit of colour. And isn't it nice how that dark skin tone, remember there's dark and light skin tones, but the dark skin tone with the grey gives a beautiful winter woodland. Now I'm quite lucky because I live quite close to Sherwood Forest. It's kind of about 7 miles this way. And one of the locations called Warsop, which is in Nottinghamshire, which is now obviously in lockdown. I've been teaching watercolour lessons and workshops there for, crikey, since about 2001. And of course it's all stopped at the minute. And on a winter's evening, you'll drive past this particular speck, and if you get a nice sunset and it catches the trees, they just glow beautifully, exactly what we're seeing here, this gorgeous red and silver birch. And that to me is what we've created, a bit of a silver birch wintry woodland in the distance using those tree and texture brushes. All the materials, of course, are available on Watercolour TV. Head on over to the art shop for those. Now, just here at the side of the cottage, I'm going to use the smaller tree brush. So I've gone from the large into the small tree brush here. Clean the brush. And I'm just going to pick up some of the dark grey from the palette because I need to make sure that I'm going in and adding a bit of darkness around those areas. Just want to make sure that things are nice and dark up the side of that cottage because that's going to make that thing pop, you see. If that makes sense. So this is the tiny version of the same. Just the same brush really. Nice. Okay, that's working nice. I'm happy with that. I'll take the masking tape off at this point as well. So I'm just going to be very careful. Zoom back a little bit because we are doing this live. There's no editing, obviously. We can't edit live. Wish you could. Bring it down. Very gentle. Peel it away. Now, there's a chance it might remove the masking fluid as well. It's fine. It's come straight off. So that's given me... If we look back at the whole picture, actually, we'll zoom back to the whole thing. We can see we've got that atmosphere that I was talking about at the beginning. We've got the trees. We're going to work here now and make this thing look like a wintry scene. Moulding the shadows in the snow. Let's get close into this. Now, I've never painted this before. It's the first time I've done this scene, so looking forward to creating something with you from scratch. Here we've got a size 10. Or as somebody said to me recently, Matthew, I've not got a size 10, but I've got a 01 brush. It was the same person that said, I said, make sure you get your number 6 brush. Matthew, I've got a size 9 brush. Turn it over and it'll work well. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to use the grey on its own and then violet on its own. Now, these colours, if you've not got these colours, just use variations of. And like I say, in theory, folks, you can use the same colours to do your picture. Hello to Peter Birchinall from Warsaw. There you go. You've seen those beautiful trees, Peter. I know you have. You can see them from your house, I imagine. Now, what we're going to do is with the grey, take the grey, and the grey is going to come and weave around to make a road. That's my first job, is to create the sort of road, if you like. And that, to me, is quite important, okay? Size 10. Again, just kind of focusing on this bottom area. I'll start with the grey. And then we're going to weave around this corner here. Now, not going to go too far with the grey before I start to blend it away. Allowing the paint just to disappear. Now as it comes around the corner, fairly quickly merging the grey into the violet. Plenty of violet down at the foreground and down here as well. This is just to create an indentation in the snow really. And then absolutely bags of water and really smooth all that together. So it's gone from the grey into the violet, which is nice, which is what you want it to do. For those people that know what the blending blades are, you could use those as well. Let's just use that damp brush to bring some little pieces coming up into the banking. Now, it could be a river. I mean, at the minute it's got a bit of a river vibe going off, but that's fine. Just sort of breaking the ice on the edge, really, you know, just to create a little bit of area. Beautiful. Like that. It's nice to see, and you can see how it starts to mould, can't you? Beautiful. Now, if I'm honest, folks, at this point, I'm just going to put one more shadow in, right in this corner. That's natural violet, by the way, which is a very soft, made from a hazelwood-based pigment, which is a lovely soft violet. It's almost got a bit of a blue. It's more blue than red in here. Like I say, it's really nice for the likes of bluebells. Super. And then over this side, again with violet. Bring a little piece coming down there. I'm not interested in where my light, where's your light coming where's the light coming from, lad? Did they wet it first? Doesn't matter where your light is, honestly, on this one. Do what works to your picture. I did a live thing yesterday, which was a bit of a comedy thing, if I'm honest. Quite enjoyed doing that one. And if anybody saw that one, it was great. It was an exclusive one for people that had booked on the workshops. And it was full of comedy moments throughout. It was like an episode of Carry On Painting, I called it. You should watch it. And a question came up about, because it was a bit of a Q&A, what happens when there's not much light outside? How do you know where your light is? Just do what works to your picture. Keep it simple. I mean, we can see where the light's coming from because on the trees we've created a light edge on the right, so that makes sense, you know. And talking about that, actually, over this side, we can just pop in some little shadows with the violet from that edge. Because remember, we're talking atmosphere here. Damp brush, a moist brush, soften it. There we go. Now, if you look at that, there's not much white left, is there? Now, here's the stage. This is the stage where people kind of forget to do. I want to give this a dry. So hanging around down at the bottom of the desk here, we've got a hairdryer. I want to give it a quick bath. And the most important thing, and if you're watching this live, folks, I need you to listen to this piece of advice, because this will make your watercolor pictures perfect. And that advice is to and that, folks, is the most important piece of advice I can tell you. Now, this microphone is very clever because when I put it on, it detects that it's not somebody speaking and it cuts out. So if you missed that advice, I'll tell you again. Remember to make sure you don't forget that bit of advice, because I ain't saying it again. That's a nickel worth of free advice for you there. A nickel is a bit of a Back to the Future quote for you. Anyway, that's full dry, folks. Sorry about that. Let's have some fun. Okay, what we're going to do is crack on. Let's get back to it. So it's dry. It's dry. It's gone flat again. You can see that. Beautiful, working extremely nice. Really happy with how that's kind of gone in to start with, which is all good. You cannot go wrong using beautiful, vibrant colours. Now that's dried off, I'm going to continue to do a little bit more work down here, but someone's asked to look back at the whole picture. Let's take a look back at the whole scene. There it is. That's how it's shaping up, folks. Looking good, yeah? Let's get close in. Right, more in the way of shadows, and very simply it's using the grey again. Actually no, I'll use the violet, I think. So it's the violet again. A little bit stronger would be nice. Natural violet was designed for winter scenes in mind. And I'm working on the sides here, size 10, and just adding little bits of shadows to some of these areas. Clean brush, give it a bit of a wipe on some tissue there, and then just go in and blend. Blend away, folks. You can't go wrong with this. Just give it a nice soften. Soften upwards is the secret. And can you see how it starts to give form to that banking? Same on this side as well. Quite a few on this side, to be fair. We're going to bring these in. Really, if you're not a confident painter, you should be doing one of these at a time, because it will stain the paper before you get a chance to blend it. But always just give it a couple of taps on tissue before you do that. If you've got blending blades, it doesn't really matter. You can put them all and have a cup of tea and come back and then blend it. But or a brew. Have a brew. Put one over here as well. Again, you know, get this board rotating. Keep refreshing the brush in the water. Clean it. It's what it's all about, isn't it? And all these years I've been painting. 30 years, man and boy. Been painting. Now let's just use a bit of dry brush. Let's just bring it round here. Now dry brush is the opposite of a wet brush, and it's the violet. And I want, now listen, I'm going to paint some skid marks, but tyre skid marks. Tyre tracks in the snow. Always looks nice. Think about the perspective. Notice it's just a horizontal wiggle. Can't go wrong, can you, really, on the tissue there? If you follow that curve, it just makes sense. Now, you could bring some grey into that. Notice the grey separated. Can you see the blue? That proves that it's mixed from your primary colours on your tissue a lot. And smell the fear. Now what we'll do, pop a little bit of dark in there. Just bring in a few more. Just little random wiggles of your brush. Darken the edge a little bit more there. I also want to just bring in a few more shadows from these trees as well. These are just more like a slight diagonal line, to be fair. There we go. Looks nice. So hopefully we can see that kind of separation starting to form. I do want to make sure things are getting quite dark at the back there. There we go. And then just more skid marks. And using grey here for that. These are just lots and lots of horizontal lines. It just helps to make it look like a roadway, which is nice. There we go. Probably enough on that one, to be honest. Now I'm just going to use that bit of Derbyshire. I'm just going to use this colour, same grey. It's very pale. Dry it off on the tissue, pinch the brush, and just do horizontal streaks over the top of it. It's given texture. Let me show you the texture it's created. Can you see that nice kind of texture? You can bring that up into the snow as well. You just got to be careful not to overdo it. Looks nice in the foreground. Because watercolour paper has got a texture, and this particular paper is called a knot surface paper, which is not rough and not smooth. That's basically what that means, if you're not sure. I'm also going to just emphasise the edge. You know where it all gets a bit hitty on the edge? It all gets a bit hitty on the edge. A bit what? A bit what? A bit hitty on the edge. A bit what, Mr. Palmer? A bit hitty on the edge. A bit hitty. A bit hitty. A bit hitty. Bit of dry brush. That reminds me of Mum when she goes out for a meal or something. She says that I just need to go to the toilet. To the where? To the toilet. She says it under her breath. Pinch one nostril. I need to go to the toilet. And if she sees some sex on telly, she said, Matthew, there's some hex on the telly. Some what? Some hex. Hex on the telly. Hex. Words you can't say. Okay. Toilet and hex. Beautiful. That's created a gorgeous wintry area. Let's take a look at the whole area. That's the wrong way. That's better. Nice. Got some beautiful texture. Happy with how that's kind of shaping up. Again, we can have a look at the whole sort of picture. See what we've got so far. There we go. Looking good. Nice atmosphere. We need to pull some darkness into this, some earth, that kind of thing. And also, we want to obviously paint in the cottage and stuff. So let's take the masking fluid off at this point, actually. So we'll get close into the building. Now, you can take masking fluid off with the masking fluid removal tool. And here it is. Just give it a rub. It's quite satisfying, like picking a bit of skin off the back of your heel. Apparently, I've never done that, but apparently it's quite satisfying. Just try it. Of course, it makes a mess everywhere, this stuff, but it's good stuff. Look at that. Beautiful. Push that away. Them little blobs is where the birds went for a hit. for a what? For a hit. On the roof. Let's get close into this. Okay. Colour then in the palette. Natural yellow, which is the sandy colour. I want to use that. Talking about natural yellow's nickname in the factory for many years was baby poo. Can you see what I mean by baby poo? Baby's first poo. There we go. And then what we'll do is we'll also have some dark skin tone hanging around. And we've got some grey as well. So those colours will make that building look stunning. Now I'm just going to pick and mix. I'm going to alternate between the different colours. So at the minute I'm using the grey, and then I'm going to pop some skin tone in. So I'm just going to mix and match on the paper. But I will just keep sort of going from one to the other. Now at the minute the light's reflecting against the wet paint, but that'll obviously clear when it dries. You can't go wrong. Just loosely bringing it down to the snow at this point. Now, if you're new to me and you're new to my channel, again, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. That's always greatly appreciated. And also head on over to Facebook, Matthew Palmer Artist. Hit like on that. And also, I've got a watercolour group called Matthew Palmer's Watercolour Group. Head on over to that, click join, and I can have a look and see whether you're worthy of joining this amazing group. Of course you are. Head on over. You can see all the mischief we get up to on the Facebook page. Matthew Palmer Artist is the Facebook page. It's a great place to be informed of what's coming up, you know, from workshops to demos, giveaways. There's all sorts happening. Thank you, Darcy. There's the link in the chat. It's over the past sort of 6 or 7 months, it's been wonderful that this sort of community has formed around the COVID and the lockdown and everything, and it's great. It's brilliant. It really is a nice thing. So if you're not involved in that little community, you need to get yourself over. It doesn't cost anything, of course. We've got a bit of snow on the top of this chimney here. There we go. So we'll literally give that a few moments to sort of soak in. And while it is soaking in, it's all about shadows now. So it's getting the grey. It's getting the grey pretty much on its own, quite strong as well. Not being afraid to use it quite strong. It's quite a cold grey, but it needs to be, because that's what makes the shadows. Where's your light coming from? This way. Coming in. Oh, so we need to put the dark on. Number 6 brush. Works nice for this. Time to rotate the board. Brace yourselves. Bloody heck. That's quite dark, isn't it, that? You've just ruined it. Clean your brush. Couple of taps. And then smooth it into the picture. What's he doing? Just going to pop in a few lines coming out. You can almost actually sort of drag paint out to the side, and it almost gives the impression of the little sort of stonework on the cottage. It also just breaks that harsh edge, but without completely taking it away. Now, if you've not got the natural colours, folks, really you want to be mixing your colours, your primary colours. There we go. There you go. Get the chimney in for Father Christmas, so we don't get stuck in it like I did last year. Got stuck in it for a few hours. And also, these kids put a mince pie up his bum. Had to get paramedics in. And he said, I've got a mince pie stuck up my bum. And the paramedic says, don't worry, I've got cream for that. That's bad, isn't it? But Christmas is on the horizon, folks, so I can get away with them. It's going to be a long few months. Mr. Palmer's dodgy jokes. Right, let's make sure we're nice and dark down here. Can't go wrong, can you, really? Now, a lot more attention is going to go into the building as it starts to dry. Using the dark skin, I'm going to pop in some windowsills and various things as it starts to dry. I do want to make sure that we're quite dark up here as well. I know it's not necessarily in shadow, but it's there. And we're also going to bring in the grey coming down here. And then merge that into the violet as well. This is a size 6, remember, so it's a fairly fine brush what I'm using for this. There we go. It all helps. Put some chimney pots on. Little bits of stonework. It's getting towards that favourite stage, which is bringing in the detail. And the brush what's just pointy as this, you can see that will really allow you to get beautiful, crisp detail. There's always a few thumbs down, Heather. You often get trolls and things watching live demos, which is why we've got some administrators and people monitoring the chat. Just the nature. Some people enjoy just causing people havoc. I mean, to be fair, it is like watching paint dry, so. Understandable. It's nice that so many of you are watching live, so thank you for tuning in. Better than watching the news, yeah? Especially in the UK. Although in America, you've got the all the excitement of the election, yeah? Is it exciting, the election in America? Seems it. Or is this an election-free zone, this demo? Or you come here to try and avoid it? Just putting a bit more of that violet into the roof there, just to give it a bit extra. Again, folks, don't forget, if you like my style of painting, you need to get yourself booked into one of these virtuals, because these are brill and you will enjoy them. I guarantee you'll enjoy it. Get yourself booked in. Details in the description. I'm sure there's people that are watching and chatting away that would back me up how nice they are. Give it a go, folks. You cannot go wrong. Beautiful. Enjoying painting the cottage. I want to start to bring in some of the windows now. And the door. Now I want to put the door open, because why wouldn't you have the door open on a cold day? Okay? And the way you do that is, let's get close in. The way you do that is you paint a bit of an L shape. So what you do is you come down here and across. Clean brush, couple of taps, and basically smooth it down, and that will give that impression as though the door is slightly open. You can sort of see inside it. As long as the grey is dark enough, that will work. It will work a treat. Nice bit of strong grey for the windows. It's amazing when you put the windows on what a difference it makes to the entire picture. It's like putting the eyes on an animal. And if you like animal painting, pictures of animals, not actually painting animals, because that would be wrong on so many levels, head on over to the YouTube channel, because you'll see quite a lot of my videos are animal painting. There's tigers, there's kingfishers, and not sure what else, but there's quite a few animals in there. Some little, put the guttering on. No, I'm still sticking with the size 6 brush here. Quite happy to use that for a huge portion of the picture. But it doesn't matter. Whatever brush you're comfortable with. Hey, with me. It's effective, isn't it, when you get those on? Super. So the cottage is really coming alive, which is what we want, of course. Just want to make sure things are quite dark, because it's such an atmospheric sky. I don't mind being quite dark down that side with that grey. Remember, this is natural grey, so this is not Payne's grey or anything like that. This is made from primary colours. So mix your greys rather than use off the shelf, because the only place you can buy natural grey from, of course, is the likes of Watercolour TV. So it's not off the shelf, is it, as such? Smashing. Okay, now I will come back to that, but we'll take a look back at this point, and we're going to start tilt. That's too close. Steady come back. You can see how the picture is starting to shape up, looking nice. Happy with how that's going so far. Hopefully you're enjoying watching it. Not too boring. And then let's have a look down at this foreground. Love the sky, really do. Let's have a look down here. Let's zoom in close. There we are. Okay, so palette cam. There it is. We're going to have dark skin and grey. Quite a lot of dark skin in that one. Very dry, as you can see there. I'm also going to be using some of the green as well, and then you'll see where that's going to go. But I'm going to dry the brush off, number 6, and make it a little bit on the spiky side. You can see here as well that the brush has got that kind of spiky thing going off. I'm going to work around the edges where the hit is. And even just along the edge of the tyre tracks as well. Very dry brush, almost like a dip to it. This is where we start to get that clarity. around the edge. Every so often, you know, it's worth pulling a little piece just coming up into the snow as well, because it just gives an edge to it. But all the time it's picking up that dark colour. Remember, this is a mixture of a grey and a brown, or dark skin would work, or something like a burnt umber with some grey, or even a bit of blue. Again, another reason why watercolour paper's got that beautiful texture. These lines that were created with the violet, you can sort of utilise your brush and work it around those areas. Get some darkness at the back. It all adds character to your winter scene. It really does, and it makes such a difference. Hopefully you can see that sort of... I want to zoom back so you can see the house and the tree as well, because I think it's important at this point rather than see close up what's happening, because it allows you to get that nice shape coming through. The little bits of earth that are just kind of poking through the snow on a one-horse open sleigh. There we go, beautiful. And at the bottom of those trees. So sort of here, you can't probably see that too well, but if I zoom in close, you can probably see the texture. Now, it's also nice when you do paint a roadway to capture the impression of, you know, maybe it's a bit icy. So if you spike your brush and then do some downward lines, it just gives a very mild impression, not of reflections, but of like a frosty feel. If that makes any sense. And for me, I think it's just a nice thing to do, especially on those tyre tracks. You could do it separately on those. It makes it look like a puddle, don't it? That's enough, you know, it's just enough to create that illusion of lovely, beautiful. Like how that's shaped up, folks, so far. We're getting there with this. Now I want to put some foliage in. Bring some colour. Just back to the house for a minute while I've got dry brush, because I just want to make sure that we've got a bit of texture. Coming around here. And also that it is very, very dark down the side of the cottage. You know, where that tree is, that bush or tree. The darker you go in those positions, the more you create depth. Are you on the same page as me? And I can also remove bring in a bit of dark in the base of these trees. So this is the same colour that I just used around the, and then just using a damp brush just to ever so gently skim over the top of it, just to calm it down and to ease it in. But notice how quick I'm working. If I work slowly, it'll cause a bit of chaos. Beautiful, beautiful. Now what we'll do, beautiful, bring a little bit of darkness into that doorway again. Make sure the windows are quite dark as well. Just want to get that doorway a little bit smoother. Beautiful. I'm sure some people watching this think he's a bit mad, this painter. He's not a serious painter like that Van Gogh youth. Used to love watching him on TV. I just love the dark colours that you can create. Now it's time to bring out the bush brush, which comes with its own theme tune. So the tree and texture brushes that we spoke about a little bit earlier have been around for a long time. There's a set of 4 of them. You've got your extra large, you've got your large, you've got your medium, you've got your small. They all had nicknames. This was woodland, this was oak tree, this was kind of birch tree, this one was bush brush, weirdly. But luckily it never caught on. Now what we'll do is we'll use the small one of these tree brushes. And we're going to start to put some detail down here because that's where it will make such a difference, okay? First thing I want to do is grab a piece of scrap paper. Talk amongst yourselves. I've just got myself a scrap little bit of watercolour paper there, an old piece, look, with a rough edge basically, and it'll be nice to bring in some foliage. We're going to start off close in around the cottage, okay? And for this palette we're going to have some natural green, which is a dark green made from blue and yellow, but also a bit of red, and then we're going to have some of the grey as well, and some of the dark skin and grey mix. And it's the same as we've been doing before. It's basically stippling. Stipple a brush. Just a smaller version. It doesn't really matter what colour we use at this distance, but little bits of foliage. That's kind of a mixture of all sorts of greens and various things. Make sure you wipe the back of the card before you progress, of course. So you can be quite creative where you put this to make it look as though the front of the cottage has got some foliage, and it does make a difference. And from time to time, having the size 6 brush at hand allows you to go in and just refine it, as in attach it more to the landscape. And it is worth putting those little bits on. I'll say that to you now. And then we can do some of this around the snowy area. Just keep sort of moving your card into another position. Just like I say, just watch out for the watch out for it creeping down the back of the card though. Put some of the brown in as well. I'm just alternating between the grey. If I'm honest with you, the grey would be more at the bottom. Quite effective that. It just kind of adds a bit more foreground detail. I'll continue doing a little bit more of that. I think there's a few more spots we could potentially work that in, like up here for example. We could have one coming up there. Back of the cottage. And then probably just a little piece coming in down here as well. I don't want a huge amount, but just a fair whack. And like I say, folks, it's a good thing to have your number 6 brush at hand, because it allows you to go in and just sharpen up some edges. Down here, I'll put some grasses poking out of the snow. There's always a few of them. A few dots on the top of them would work. And just get a few grasses coming out of here as well, I think might be an idea as well. Little bits of foliage. Now I have got some masking fluid on there, on that area. So that's going to come in soon. Just going to get a bit closer in here, folks, just for a second. Just want to get towards the bottom of that cottage, because what I want to do is pop more of a straight edge on, probably about there, and then I want to stipple some of this colour. Leaving a little bit of a gap. If I get really close into that, you can actually see just sat on the top of that hedgerow a bearded chuff. Can you see it? This can like be the Mr. Palmer and his gateposts and his fences. He loves them. Oh, his buddy puts them on. Just gives a bit of scale, don't it? And then you can sort of just rough it away into the snow a little bit. And all those bits that you've added, like a little piece here, it's worth just skimming the base of it just to attach it a little bit more, I would say. And any large areas of snow, of foliage, it's worth getting a bit of a shadow coming from them as well. Right there. Up here as well. And of course, if you really want to impress your neighbours, there's no reason why you can't bring in a bit of a sort of shadows from that area. Not very impressive actually, is it? A few little spots and dots around the tops of these. Sort of hand painted spots and dots. Always give an extra feel of looking a bit more realistic. Just a few. Those grasses need a shadow as well. With the violet, of course. I still feel I want to be a little bit darker, just right in the base of those trees. So I'm just putting a bit of dark in there, just in those bits. Beautiful. Excellent. Now I've got some masking fluid in there, but I'll come back to that in a second, folks. Quick zoom back, we can see how we're looking. A little bit more to go and then we've cracked it, but that's looking rather nice as far as a scene's concerned. Stick with me though, folks. A few more little bits I want to do just to finish it off. Just making sure that shadow's quite dark down here. Beautiful. Okay, so back to the palette then. So white paint is quite useful, if I can find some, of course. Talk amongst yourself. Someone's pinched me white paint. If you saw my collection of paints, somewhere in there's a tube of white. We should have a competition. Guess how many tubes of paint's in there? Name that tune. Aha! We have white. Worth the weight in gold, eh? There it is. We've got some white paint. Oh, I was messing about at. Let's get close in. Bit of white. Finish things off with. I'll tell you what, actually, now I'm going to take away this fluid. Should have just popped on over there. And also, I'm going to take a bit of red. Make it look like a bit of a holly type thing, I suppose. Could be, maybe. I'm just popping a bit of red on there. You probably can't see that too well, but there's a little bit of red just creeping in there. Nice. Okay, yeah, so white paint then. What do I want white paint for? Just a little bit of white. I'm going to squirt it on the scrap piece of paper, actually. Just here. rather than in the palette. There it is. Bit of goulash, bit of white goulash. And I'm actually going to take one of these new fan brushes. We're not used them yet, have we? So somewhere around here is the small fan brush. Bit of water, mix it into the brush. These are the fantastic brushes. So actually mix it within the brush. Always dab the excess off on a bit of tissue. Make it very dry. Make a very dry brush. So you can see here that it's very dry. And if I get close in to the trees here, you can ever so gently just add a bit of wintry, snowy covered branches. Just a very gentle, wispy, feathery effect. Beautiful. That really just softens them up a bit, don't it? So it's a very spiky brush, these Fantastics. Natural hair, same hair as the tree brush, just a very different shape. And then if we stipple it, you can just pop a little bit of snow-covered foliage. Gorgeous, I love that. Just adds a bit of life to it, don't it? And anywhere that you want to get a bit of snow within this, see how that's extended the hedgerow? Let's get close in. Breaks the harsh edge. Down here as well. Now of course here we could have some snow-covered, can't see that, can you? Snow-covered grasses. Looks lovely that, and then turn it on the side, you can get a bit more wintry atmosphere going off. But it just adds a bit of spit and polish to it, of course. I'll bring a little bit of that in the roof as well. Paint over that pink splodge where they went for on the roof. Put a bit of white on there. Look. Give it some character. Give it some shape. So these are the Fantastics. There's a set of 3 Fantastics. I'm sure some of you have got them already. Pretty convinced of it, to be fair. Let's put some snow on the top of the windowsills with the white paint. And a few little icicles on the roof there. You have to watch people painting icicles because they often paint them as though it's not an icicle, but it's more something that dangles between the horse's legs. So you have to be a bit careful not to make them too big. Well, I love painting icicles, stick a few more on, they end up like about this big. Put a bit of extra snow on the roof. You can just basically tidy up the picture, you know. And then of course I pop some little bit of white up against the posts. And if you can get a real fine line out your brush, you could even pop in a bit on the tops of that gate. back down to the roadway, put a few horizontal white lines across, make it look even more frosty. I'm just painting a little bit of white coming in from the edge here. Smashing. It's nice to see that detail, you know, around there. Really makes the cottage look more like a cottage. Hopefully. You can even just get the slight impression of some distant fence posts at the back of the garden there, you know, to represent the, like it's covered in snow. But it's all about the little detail bits for me on these pictures. I think it just adds a bit of interest. Wonderful. Let's have a look back then. See how it's shaping up. As always, when you do a demo, it's nice to get the tape off because it just frames it, don't it? Get that nice crisp edge. Nice, there we go. So a nice wintry watercolour village. Let's take a close-up look at it. Got a lot of detail going off in that picture, you know, from the beautiful fine snow-covered branches with those gorgeous brushes across into the cottage itself, which is very detailed. Love doing all these little bits of gate posts and fences and things, and of course down here the nice frosty road with the foliage and even the grasses with the cast shadow. Made a beautiful picture, it really did. There we go. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that one. It was a pleasure to paint, folks. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, as well as the old Watercolour TV. If you've not come across, there's a 30-day trial of Watercolour TV, which is full to the rafters of video on demand. 14 years we've worked it out worth of online tuition with Mr. Palmer on here. New stuff added all the time. There's over 50 new videos per year. That works out, of course, around one a week. Can't go wrong. Don't forget to check out the workshop, folks. The online virtual workshops. If you're watching this later, don't worry if you've missed the 8th of November, because there's pretty much one every week. Head on over to Watercolour TV and you will see on the workshop tab at the top of the website, you'll see where to get hold of the latest one. 3 colours, 3 brushes is all you need for this, folks, and you can watch live or you can watch it at any time after. Check them out, folks. The one for this Sunday, the 8th of November, has got a few spaces left, painting the Northern Lights with a stunning landscape and a starry sky. So really looking forward to that one, folks. I really hope you enjoyed this. Keep well, keep safe, look after yourself, and enjoy being stuck in the house doing some beautiful watercolours with Mr. Palmer. See you soon. Oh, thanks to Darcy, thanks to Lynn for being a monitor and making sure that all the chat was going well. Thank you.